All right, Lions fans. Jason from Talking Grit. Lions just beat the Bengals 37-24. Just happened. Going to give you my initial thoughts right after the break.
Welcome to Talking Grit.
All right, Lions fans. What'd you think? Was it as dominant as you wanted it to be? Did they leave a lot on the table? Are the injuries starting to worry you? We'll talk about it all right here. First of all, really proud of the offense right away, getting a touchdown. Super proud of the defense getting off the field, no opening touchdown, something that every Lions fan has wanted. Kelvin Shepard has wanted, and it happened in this game, so we can be encouraged by that. Decker being out severely affected this game from pass protection. Goff got hit like I hadn't seen him hit in a Lions uniform in a very long time. So we could be grateful that Taylor Decker is playing really good. It also means that Manu's got a lot of seasoning left, right? And that's the worry that if you listen to the podcast, we asked, like, would you rather have Kirby out or Taylor out? My answer was I'd rather have Kirby out because I think I'm worried about Goff getting hit. And, they stopped one of our drives because there was a fumble on a play. So those are the type of things that I was worried about. Hopefully Taylor can come back next week. We're going to need him against a good defensive line that Kansas City has next week. And we're facing Patrick Mahomes. We are going to need some of our secondary back. Hopefully Darian Arnold can come back. Regardless of what you feel about the penalties, whatever, we need depth at that position. And we're going to need players rather than Trey Flowers, who played today after being just signed earlier this week. And we're putting him in. And at one point, he's in the red zone guarding Jamar Chase. Not a matchup that we wanted, right? And before you ask, the big play was a Meek. Meek gave out that big play to Jamar and bid on an underneath route. And you got to keep them out of the end zone on there. And Meek knows better than that, and that was disappointing. I would say after that touchdown, the most impressive drive was the Lions get the ball back, and we just basically run it right down the field and score a touchdown and shove it down their throat and basically erase any chance that they had. That is the type of stuff that a championship team will do, and that's what the Lions are right now. I am curious of how these injuries are going to happen, especially in the secondary. Last year it seemed like the defensive line, every time you looked, another player was going down. It's the secondary this year. Even Branch was out for a little bit of a play. Rock Yassin went down, but every time I saw him on the sideline, he was getting electrolytes and sugar. So it tells me maybe he was cramping and not necessarily an injury. So hopefully he gets well hydrated this week, because I have a feeling we're going to need Rock Yassin for a lot of snaps. He played really well in this game too. He had the pass breakup. He gets his nose in there on run defense. He's that type of player. I'm glad that, it was one of those. Rock is a player that when we signed him, it was little fanfare, but he came into training camp, really, took off there. They put him at safety a little bit, and, we saw him in the preseason games just come up and, knock people silly. So Rock fits the grit mentality. I'm glad we got him. We're going to probably need him next week and maybe even the following week after that. And then hopefully DJ Reed comes back shortly after that if he's ready. I don't want to rush him back, but obviously we're going to need some secondary help back there. I think this is one of those games like last week, Dan Campbell says it wasn't good enough. I think at certain points he's going to tell us that this wasn't good enough. We had opportunities, especially on offense, to just go down and score. Dan Campbell played it conservative a few times, punting when they were either in a situation where they normally would go for it on fourth down, or they could have kicked a field goal. But I think just like last week, we talked about it on the podcast with the Browns and Bengals, weaker offense. Our defense, we could trust them to make some plays. And boy, did they make some plays today. 3 interceptions. Multiple of those interceptions could have went to another guy. Kirby basically stole Terrion Arnold's interception. And then Alex stole one from Kirby. If Alex didn't get that, Kirby was going to get that. That was just a very poorly thrown ball. And then a Meeks was, good coverage, but it was also a poorly thrown ball. The Lions took advantage of that. There's been plenty that they've dropped this year as far as interceptions. I'm thinking of Alex Anzalone in week 1, Brian Branch, right? Those are, interceptions that we didn't hold on to. So even if they're just handing us interceptions, they really leaned on Montgomery in this game, and I think Gibbs could have had even a bigger game. But, it's Monty's homecoming. They wanted, he got the touchdown pass, which was awesome again. I don't know how they let that play. Apparently, they're not looking at the Commanders game tape where Monty threw that because it's basically the same play. Not as good a throw this time as the one for Laporta, but got the same result, got the touchdown, so we're all good there. Overall, I'm okay with it. Amon-Ra, Laporta had a little bit coming out, which we talked about last week. A lot of yak because Bengals just give up yards after catch. They don't tackle very well. Overall, happy to get a win on the road. This team is weaker, obviously, without Joe Burrow, but they're still an NFL team. We were in control a vast majority of this game. At no point was I ever nervous. I just wish Hutch could have got, his 3 sacks on his own without penalties that took those away, right? We could have had 2 safeties in this game. I wonder what the odds on that would have been at FanDuel, but I digress. Lions win. Let's move on to Kansas City. We are 4-1 with the Eagles loss. We are now, co-leaders of the NFC and feeling good, man. All right. We will go live Monday night. It is the 5th. We're at the 6th. So Monday night, depending on when you're watching this, it's either tomorrow or later on today. We will be going live, Jacob and I, at 9 o'clock. And then we'll be doing an all 22 review after that. So if there's a play that you want, come on, we'll do that. We do answer questions during the chat. So hopefully see you there. One thing left to say. Go Lions!